Well, good morning. My name is Tony, and this is Tony Turns Wood. Welcome to my shop. Today I've got a little scrap piece of cherry. I've marked off the ends here for centers so that we can put it on here, and I'm going to turn a little dowel. I was looking at a cool video from one of my friends online, and they were making these hairpins, and that just looked like kind of a fun thing to do. Like these little wood, I think they're called hair sticks or hairpins, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what they call them, but I guess you can, like, gals with long hair can wrap their hair up into these cool little things and tie them into these elaborate hairstyles and buns and whatnot. So I had a little scrap. I said, oh, it looks like fun. I'll give that a shot. Didn't have a whole lot of time today, so we'll see how this works out. I'm just going to grab a nice sharp skew, and we'll round this off and see if we can get some interesting, an interesting little hairpin out of it. How's that sound? All right, stick with me. Let's see what happens. All right, we got a nice sharp edge here on our skew. Got a little radius skew going here. We will start at 0 like normal, crank it up, and since we're running spindles, I can go up to 2,000 RPM without a problem here. All right, let's see what we got. Tool rest a little lower here, and I realized, looking at little things here, I didn't even put my mask on. Shame on me. Let's get that rectified. Find our bevel. And we're going to not be using any steady rest or anything. All we're going to do first is just round it off. And I'm really trying to got a little something on my tool rest there. I'm going to have to get that off real quick. Now, since we are going thin in the middle here, I can start to see it flex, so we have to go very gentle. If we take light cuts, that flex and vibration will get too carried, too crazy. We're going to want to get this down to under 1/4 of an inch, I think. But I can hear the vibration coming in there. And once we feel it getting just a little bit round, we can come in here, holding pressure on the skew, slow bevel riding cut. Get it right there? We're going to have to take much lighter cuts because that was jumping around in the middle there. We still get a pretty cut. You know, we get a nice round, a little flat right there still. But we're going to need to go a lot thinner than this for this project. So you come in from here, light passes. Let's see if we're, I don't feel anything there. We're going to have some ugly tool lines there. I didn't take a great pass. But we're getting down to our size, so we'll just keep working it down here a little bit, keep making it smaller. Real gentle. Right there, that humming is the vibration from the center. As we get to the ends here where there's more stability, that noise changes. I've got a taper here. So the trick is not to have any bevel pressure, but you still want to ride it. So we want that bevel on there. I think Stuart Batty calls it floating the bevel. We don't want to put a ton of pressure. I'm going to go ahead and taper down this direction. I know a lot of people make magic wands. That's not something that I personally make, but I think it'd be the same kind of concept here. Now for me, aside from the feel of using a skew, and I'm not a skew master like a Richard Raffin or Matt Monaco, but I listen to the sounds. The sounds tell me what's really happening. We're getting a really nice taper. So we're going to continue to taper down. I want to get this probably down to small. I don't know exactly. I don't have a measurement height. We'll know it when we see it. And I'm going to let my taper end right about there now. And keep a little meat. And you can feel it vibrate under your hands. Very annoying noise. I have to lower my tool rest here in a minute when we get this other part down to that same. Get some lighter passes. Our decorative end is going to be on this end. So this will be our decorative end. This will be our long tapered end. I'm going to move in a little bit closer and lower my tool rest just a hair. Now that we're a little bit smaller, I think that I can go ahead and start in on this. I might get out a spindle gouge, but I'd like to try to do this with just the skew. And I'm going to give it a little bit more speed. Let's see if we get nice light cuts here. First time I saw this done, I thought someone was making a knitting needle. And as we get thinner and thinner here, this is where catches start becoming a real close thing will just break. Now I'm going to put a little V-groove in here for our decorative portion. Got a little bead there. A nice round one there. Let's see if we can do this one without getting a catch. Definitely not my perfect angle from that direction over. I like rolling my beads the other direction. And try to roll back over here to thin this all out the same. Taking lighter and lighter cuts, especially here in the middle. Still a little thick, quite a bit thick actually. And this other end is going to be rounded off. We'll keep being careful as we go down there. It's nice and smooth to the touch. I'm going to go ahead and drop my tool rest again a little bit more. I want to keep it close. I'm not going to hit anything here. Last thing you want to do is grind up your headstock threads. So with a nice sharp tip here. Now my goal is not to have this thing flex in the middle. I might have to come in with that with a spindle gouge where I have a little more control. Again, that's a skill thing. My skill level doesn't always support my vision. I can feel it wanting to flex. There, we're getting some nice cuts there. Pretty piece of cherry. And that's almost, we don't want to make it so flexible that when someone does their hair tying work, it doesn't work. And that's about the right length. Kind of showed it about the width of the hand there. And over here we can do a little bit more decorative work, and then we'll get out a spindle gouge. Got a little spindle gouge here. If we can get a good ride here. We can tighten up those beads a little bit. Do the same thing over here. I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of material off here. When we get to the end, we'll round, drop into that bead. A little bit there. Okay. Let's go ahead and put a couple of little V grooves in here. Oops, see, I got a catch there. I'm going to go ahead and pull those little V-groove beads off. I don't like them. I think I'm going to go for is a little bit of a cove on this. And I'll do the same going the other direction if I can. That does look a little nicer, I think, more decorative. Got my spindle gouge out again, just to try to clean up that edge. For a cove. Make sure it's nice and uniform. It's a very attractive handle. Find my bevel. It's pretty good. I think we've got some nice tight cuts there. We'll round this over here after we sand on this end. It's a teeny little crack here, but I think that's pretty cool. So let's go ahead and get out the sandpaper. I'm going to start at 120 grit using the Abranet, and I'm going to work all the way up through 400, and then we're just going to use beeswax on this to clean it up. Got a little stack right here of sandpaper from yesterday's project. And we got a 120 grit right on top. So let's turn on our dust collector. Whenever I'm using a shaping grit like 120 to make sure I've got everything nice and smooth, and I'm going with the typical spindle orientations, I will stop and go with the grain one time per grit, just to make sure that we have a nice, not leaving any big nasties in there, right? I'm trying to see if this crack is a real crack or it's just spalting in the wood. I think it's just spalting, so we should be fine. Okay, and we'll move on to 180 and then all the way up through 400, and I'll speed through that for you guys. Okay, it's ready for a little grit. And for that, we're going to use a little bit of pitas. Just a dab will do you. You all know the routine here. Just get a machine chop cloth, a little bit of the pitas. Just about that much is all we really need. And we'll crank it up around 2,500 RPM. I'll just slowly make sure it gets on the whole thing as we shine it up. Got to make sure we get in the cracks over here. So we have two little beads that are nice and tight with a tight V groove at the bottom. We'll make sure we get everything in there. And make sure there's nothing left over on the towel. Okay, now that we've got it fully coated, we're just going to work it off on the towel. And this is a grit, so pitas is kind of the equivalent of about 800 grit sandpaper has been my experience. But it just takes out all the little imperfections from sanding you get with the sanding lines and marks. Always been one of my favorites. I know there's a lot of great ones out there. I just haven't had a need. I've had that one can of pitas probably for 3 years. It just lasts. Plus I have my own shop grit. I'll probably try one of the other guys' grits as soon as I'm out of this one. But for now, I'm really happy with it. And I do have my own shop grit, but I've really been loving Woodturner Gonz's wax. I have his first version, which is kind of a harder wax. A lot of carnauba in it, a little less mineral oil, so it really comes off as a hard wax. And it sets up beautifully and it shines nice, easy to maintain. And for something pretty like this, it's going to go on a lady's hair. It's kind of jewelry. I just want to be careful. So again, speed's right up at 2,500 RPM. And I'm just putting a little dab of that wax on there, working it in, letting the heat from the friction do its magic. And that is really all it takes. I think we're probably a half an hour start to finish on this whole project, including sanding and me having to stop and sharpen tools and stuff. So take a look at that. Not too bad, huh? So now I'm going to put my tool rest back on. We will part off both ends. I'm going to start with, actually I'm going to get the smaller tool rest so I have a little bit more control. And for the end that goes into the hair, not the handle side, I generally, looking at some of the other designs I've seen out there, I'm going to want to use a spindle gouge and round that over before I come down and part this off. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm way too high. You don't want to catch at this point. Like that. That was a catch. That was me going too far in. Gets small and it starts to move on you. Got to be careful. See if I damaged anything. I think I went just into the tip. Yeah, I just went back into my headstock here, which we're going to, which we'll be cutting off anyway. So over here now, I'll do the same thing, except for this time try not to get a catch because my catch is going to run into my handle. And I'm having to go very, very gentle and slow because now it's that phase where it wants to really wants to move off on you and break away. So again, I'm finding the bevel and just slowly pulling my handle in. I can feel all that vibration. I'm almost down to a full break on this end. Again, I find my bevel and just round off my end here. So, with both of those down to where I could just snap them off, I'm going to hit them with the back saw real quick and I'll hand sand the ends and we'll be back and wrap it up. Remember, it's a pull saw, so you want to pull it towards you. And that will get us down to a nice little nub where we can hand sand the rest of it perfectly round. I didn't leave a lot of meat there to work with, and that's kind of the whole point. Less meat you leave, less sanding there is. So we have to deal with that little nub there and this little nub on the end over here. I don't know if that's focusing all right. Maybe I gotta put my hand under it there. So that's our nub there, and that's our little nub on the end. We'll hand sand those just on our palm, polish it up, and we'll be right back. All right, well there it is. I'll put my hand back here and get a nice little thing. We get a nice little bead in there, pretty uniform down the length here for the area that goes into the hair. And nice little tips on both ends. And well, there you go. It's a magic little hairpin. It's kind of a fun little project you can do, and like I said, we just did that start to finish in under half an hour. So hopefully you had some fun, and that included milling the lumber, sharpening the skews, the works. Good practice and a fun little project, especially if you got a friend with some long hair. Now, being the bald man I am, and my wife's got relatively short hair, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. But hey, thanks for the idea, and I appreciate you guys sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed that quick little tutorial, and if you did, let me know. Leave me a comment below, a like or subscribe always helps me out. And if there's somewhere I can improve, I'd love that input too. Even negative feedback is really helpful. It helps me grow and develop. So hope you guys had a great day. Now get out there and turn something.